Ethan Collins never imagined betrayal would come from the two people he loved most. He was a soldier, not just by profession, but in spirit. Loyal. Disciplined. Principled. The kind of man who fought for what he believed in. And above all, he believed in love. He believed in Emily. She was soft-spoken, with eyes that could calm any storm and a smile that healed his worst days. Their love story wasn't extravagant, it was built on quiet coffee dates, handwritten letters, and sacrifices that made it sacred. They married after 4 years of courtship. It wasn't easy. Between Ethan's deployments and Emily's insecurities about being a military wife, the road was full of cracks. But they patched every wound with more love. On their wedding night, under North Carolina's amber sky, Ethan had whispered, "No matter where I go, I'll always come home to you." She cried. She believed him. 3 months into their marriage, Ethan's phone rang at 4:36 a.m. Another deployment. Fort Hood, Texas. Classified duration. Emily didn't cry that time. She held his face and said, "Just come back to me." He promised he would. But what neither of them knew was that the real war wasn't in a foreign land. It was about to unfold inside their own home. Emily's world turned quiet. The house echoed his absence. Days blurred into nights, and nights stretched like empty highways. At first, she found comfort in routine: breakfast by 8, phone call attempts by 9, reading letters by 10. She filled her days teaching at a local elementary school. But her evenings? Hollow. Then came Richard Collins. Ethan's father. Widowed. Retired. Alone. A man Ethan had always struggled to connect with, strict, cold, emotionally distant. But when Richard offered to move in temporarily to help Emily during Ethan's deployment, Ethan hesitated, and agreed. He wanted his father to finally step up, not for him, but for Emily. But Ethan didn't know. That man was capable of breaking far more than silence. Richard was respectful at first. Helpful. Clean. Quiet. He fixed leaky pipes, changed light bulbs, brought groceries. He asked Emily how she was coping. Told her stories of Ethan's childhood. Laughed at her jokes. And slowly, without warning, became her only real companion. Emily began looking forward to their dinners. Their conversations. Their silences. He made her feel seen. And that feeling was dangerous. One evening, after a storm knocked out the power, Richard found her in the kitchen lighting candles. He stood in the doorway longer than he should have. "You look just like her," he whispered. "Who?" she asked, startled. "My wife. Ethan's mother." Emily smiled awkwardly. She must have been beautiful. She was. But she didn't look at me the way you just did. She froze. "I'm sorry," he said quickly. "Ignore me. It's the wine talking." But the wine didn't lie. And that night, as she lay in bed, her heart pounded for reasons she couldn't name. Weeks passed. Ethan's communication grew limited. Classified missions. No video calls. Just brief, delayed emails. Emily started dreaming of hands that weren't Ethan's. Guilt became a shadow. But desire became the fire. One night, after a rare email from Ethan saying he'd be extended 4 months more, Emily broke. She drank. She cried. She hated herself. And Richard knocked on her door. "I heard you crying." She didn't speak. He walked in. Sat beside her. She didn't move. He touched her hand. She didn't pull away. And when his lips grazed hers, she kissed him back. It wasn't a one-time mistake. It became routine. A twisted rhythm of guilt and pleasure. They kept it secret. Even from themselves. But fate does not remain quiet. Emily missed her period. The test turned positive. She panicked. Sobbed. Richard told her, "We'll figure it out. Don't tell Ethan." But she had to. Somehow. She began drafting a lie, a timeline that made it plausible. She told herself Ethan wouldn't notice. But Ethan was trained to detect lies. And what came next would destroy everything. 16 months after his deployment began, Ethan returned. He wasn't expecting a parade. But he wasn't expecting this either. Emily, 6 months pregnant, standing with nervous eyes. He cried. He held her stomach. He whispered, "Thank you for waiting for me." She nodded, but didn't smile. In the following weeks, he redecorated the nursery, cooked her meals, massaged her swollen feet. He loved her more than ever. Until one morning, during a physical evaluation for a promotion, he fainted. "Mr. Collins," the doctor said carefully, "you have a rare condition called non-obstructive azoospermia. Simply put, you've been infertile since birth." "I'm so sorry." Silence. The world cracked. The hallway echoed as Ethan walked out, his fists trembling. He didn't drive home. He sped. Stormed inside. Emily turned, startled. "You're home early. Whose child are you carrying?" "What? I can't have kids, Emily. I never could." Silence. She stared at him. Then slowly, broke down. "I didn't mean to." "Who?" he roared. She collapsed into sobs. "It's Richard's." What followed was not screaming. Not slapping. But a cold, calculated unraveling of Ethan's soul. He left. That night, Richard was dragged out of his room and beaten half to death in the backyard shed. Emily tried to stop it, and ended up with a fractured wrist and bruised ribs. Ethan didn't kill them. He destroyed them. Legally. He filed for divorce. Filed assault charges on Richard. Took control of all shared assets. Kicked both of them out. Told the entire town the truth. Richard lost his pension in a court battle. Emily lost her job, her home, her name. She wandered shelters. Richard moved into a dingy trailer. And then, the baby died inside her, 3 weeks before birth. Her womb was declared infected. Future pregnancies, unlikely. Her heart? Already dead. Ethan? He was promoted. Saluted. Admired. But he never smiled again. Every night, he stared at the nursery he never dismantled. Every night, he whispered. Ethan didn't scream anymore. He didn't cry. He didn't feel. He woke up. He trained. He slept. But inside, his soul had turned to dust. There was no court trial. No jail time. No public drama. Only quiet, deliberate punishment. He had taken everything from Emily and Richard without ever touching a gun or calling the police. Now, he wanted them to feel it. The way he had felt it, lying awake for 426 nights in enemy territory, dreaming of a wife who was being touched by his father. He had one plan. And it was simple. Let them destroy themselves. Emily wandered the streets like a ghost. Her name? Tarnished. Her face? Recognized. People whispered. That's her. The one who slept with her husband's dad. She begged at food banks. Slept in women's shelters. Every night, she replayed his eyes, those broken, brown eyes when she had told him. It's your father's child. Her baby had died inside her. Her womb poisoned. And now, even time refused to heal her. Richard lived in a rusted trailer on the edge of town. He limped from the beating Ethan gave him, a constant reminder that age cannot protect a man from the consequences of his own sins. His pension? Gone. Reputation? Burned. Every mirror showed him the monster he had become. He drank, coughed blood, and waited. Waited for forgiveness that would never come. Ethan didn't need to hurt them. He just needed to watch. So he did. He watched Emily from afar. Watched her collect leftover food from trash bins behind grocery stores. Watched her beg for bus money. Watched her cry when she saw a mother holding her baby. He never spoke to her. Not once. Just watched. Until one night, she finally saw him. She was walking along the train tracks, shivering, soaked in rain. A black car pulled up beside her. The window rolled down. Ethan. She froze. He looked at her. Calm. Cold. No smile. No rage. Just emptiness. "Why are you here?" she whispered. "I wanted to see how far rock bottom really is." Tears welled in her eyes. "I'm sorry." He didn't blink. "Are you?" She fell to her knees. "I don't want to live like this anymore." He leaned forward. "You made your choice. Now live with it." He drove off. A week later, Ethan found an envelope on the hood of his truck. Inside, a handwritten note. "You were my home. I broke it. You were my peace. I ruined it. I carry the weight of that child every second. I deserve this pain. But if you ever have one drop of love left for me, please, please let me go in peace." He didn't know what she meant. Until he got a call from the shelter. Emily was gone. Her body had been found near the riverbank, overdosed. Cold. Alone. No one claimed her. No funeral. Only a whisper in the wind. "I was supposed to be yours forever." Ethan stood at the riverbank for hours. Not crying. Not cursing. Just existing. A letter clutched in his hand. He didn't speak. He didn't move. He just stared at the water. Then walked away. Back to the empty house. Back to the nursery. Back to the silence. 4 days later, a neighbor found Richard collapsed outside his trailer. Heart attack. He was pronounced dead on the scene. But Ethan already knew. He had sensed it. As if evil had finally exhausted itself and left. He sat on the nursery floor. Looked at the mobile that never spun. Looked at the crib that was never filled. And whispered to no one. "I didn't kill them. They killed themselves. I just gave them space to feel what they made me feel. That's all revenge really is. Returning pain to its rightful owner." Then he stood up. And closed the nursery door forever. Ethan didn't visit the river again. He didn't return to the trailer park. He didn't speak Emily's name out loud anymore. Everything was gone, the love, the family, the future, even the rage. All that remained was silence. And sometimes, silence is louder than war. Ethan now lived in a cabin 3 miles outside Asheville, deep in the woods. No neighbors. No mail. No noise. He chopped wood. Built furniture. Ate in silence. He had money. He had peace. But not a single night passed without the echo of a child's laugh, one that had never existed, but should have. He saw her sometimes. Emily. In dreams. On porches. In reflection. She never spoke. Just stared. With eyes full of questions. One cold November morning, as orange leaves danced through the wind, Ethan found an envelope nailed to his cabin door. No return address. Inside was a photograph, an old one. Him, Emily, and Richard. Smiling. Behind it, a handwritten note. "Forgiveness isn't for the one who wronged you. It's for the one who survived. You survived. Now live. No name. No explanation. But it shook him. More than anything else ever had. 2 weeks later, Ethan heard something he hadn't in months, a knock. He opened the door. A young woman stood there. Nervous. Holding a book. "Are you Ethan Collins?" "Yes." She swallowed. I'm from the school where Emily used to teach. I found this in the staff room when we were clearing her things. It's her journal. I think you should read it." He didn't take it. "I don't need it." She paused. "You should at least know what she wrote on the last page." She opened the journal. "Read aloud." "I made one mistake. But it was the kind of mistake that takes your soul away. I loved Ethan. I really did. But the loneliness was louder than my love. And now I carry a silence I can't escape. If he ever reads this, tell him I died loving him more than I ever knew." Ethan closed his eyes. Took a deep breath. Then finally, reached out and took the journal. That night, for the first time in years, Ethan lit a fire in the living room. He sat down. Opened the journal. Read every page. Every entry. Every doubt. Every lonely cry. And every moment she begged for him to come back, before she ever gave in to Richard. Tears came. Not in a flood. Just one. And that was enough. Days later, Ethan returned to the town he had abandoned. Not for revenge. Not for pain. But for peace. He walked to the cemetery. Found Emily's unmarked grave. Kneeled. And whispered, "You made a choice. But so did I. And I chose to stop hating you today." He placed a small stone on her grave, a tradition he'd learned overseas. To honor the fallen. Even the ones who fell from grace. Ethan didn't stay in that cabin. He sold it. Moved to a quiet coastal town in Maine. Started a carpentry business. Taught troubled teens how to build furniture and rebuild their confidence. He never remarried. Never tried to replace what was lost. But he smiled again. He laughed again. He lived. Not because he forgot. But because he finally accepted that the only way to escape pain is not through revenge, but through release. She betrayed me. He betrayed me. And I punished them both by letting them drown in the weight of what they did. But in the end, I was the one who survived. Not because I was stronger, but because I chose to forgive the dead and return to the living. Trust was broken. Lives were shattered. But from the ashes, Ethan found himself again.